What is customer segmentation? Well, simply put, customer segmentation is dividing customers into groups based on common characteristics. Typically, the top-down approach might be to segment people by demographics, such as their age or sex, psychographics, like what you spend money on or what you like to do, or geography, which is your city or state. We often call this market research, and it's common in advertising or in product marketing. It starts with a very large universe, say everyone in the United States, and then works down toward a narrower market segment, often called profiles or personas. However, this type of customer segmentation is not meant to be individualized. So if you try to apply market research segmentation to your existing customer database, you will come up with very spotty results, if any. But there is another way, a data-driven way to get to know your individual customers. If you've been selling products to customers for a few years, then you have access to a very powerful bottom-up segmentation of your existing customers. This segmentation captures all of your customers, and it provides a framework to help you unpack more richness about your customer base. And when you do it correctly, you can track it all the way back to your bottom line. This data-driven approach to customer segmentation uses existing customer data and their lifetime value. What is an example of customer segmentation? Well, near the millennium, researcher Valerie Zeithmel and others published a book called Driving Customer Equity: How Customer Lifetime Value is Reshaping Corporate Strategy. And in it, they defined a customer pyramid model with 4 types of customers based on profitability. At the very top of the pyramid, the platinum tier described the company's most profitable customers who are also committed to the company. The next tier is the gold tier, which includes customers whose profitability levels are not as high because perhaps they want price discounts or are not as loyal as the platinum tier. The third tier is the iron tier, and that contains essential customers who provide essential volume to use the firm's capacity, but whose loyalty and profitability are not substantial enough for special treatment. And then finally, the lower tier was called the lead tier, which consists of customers who are costing the company money. Now, these 4 tiers have certain characteristics. The general idea is that platinum customers are already committed, and therefore they should be treated in such a way that you're not over marketing to them. They already love the company, so they require a special kind of treatment. The gold customers, however, are those that don't yet have that same loyalty, so they oftentimes need a little bit something extra, like a service guarantee or something to make them feel good so that they can move up to the platinum level. The iron level contains a lot of different variables, which oftentimes require research to discover what will move this level up. And also because it's a larger level in terms of volume, there can be lots of different triggers. Now, Zeithel, when she did the research, she concluded that the lead customers were customers who were costing the company money. But what we have found subsequently was that lead customers are still an important part of the mix. And even though a customer may cost you money today, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should get the lead out and cut all your lead customers. So this is the 4-part model that we often use to segment customers by their lifetime value, which can also include their profitability. How can customer segmentation help you? Customer segmentation by lifetime value can help you reverse engineer where your best customers came from and then use that information to find more of them. It can also help you identify when customers need a personal nudge to encourage retention. It can help you build partnerships within your company across the org chart for the benefit of the customer. It can help you turn retention into loyal advocacy, and it can even guide your innovation efforts. And that's not even all. Investors are now using this segmentation to value companies, and board members want to understand more about how concepts like equity and sustainability fit your customer base. So, proper segmentation by lifetime value helps an organization in more than a dozen ways. What is an example of customer segmentation? Well, there's a very interesting example in the banking space, which I found recently. Normally, customer segmentations are buried deep in the algorithms inside a company. But recently, I found the State Bank of India is actually surfacing the benefits of a particular customer category that their customer base can be part of. What's so interesting about this is they're making it incredibly clear, almost like a travel program, that if you do certain actions, in this case, they're making it exceptionally clear what category you fall into and what the benefits are. So if you look at the description, it says the eligibility is a certain quarterly balance. And for that quarterly balance, you get benefits such as a relationship manager, you get your ATM card, you have a certain expenditure limit, and you get reward points. They also link in the description to ways that you can upgrade and become a more valuable customer to them, a diamond or platinum customer. I think this is fascinating because it is very rare for customers to, one, understand how they're being categorized, two, have the company be incredibly transparent how often they're being categorized. So in this case, they're recategorizing them on a yearly basis, and then they will tell you if you've been upgraded or downgraded. Again, very much like a travel rewards program, but in this case, a bank. So kudos to the State Bank of India for making a very transparent customer categorization program. I would, however, recommend that they classify customers a lot faster than 1 year, as people can move quickly and life can change quickly. In this e-commerce example, customers are segmented across the 4 categories: platinum, gold, iron, and lead. And then the 200,000 customers are sent a campaign. And what you'll notice is there are typically a small number of platinum customers and a large number of lead customers. That is almost always the case across every company. And then the number of iron and gold customers in the middle varies, often by industry. Now, in this example, the campaign was sent through email. And the first thing we notice is that the platinum customers, which again are the most loyal customers, respond more positively to the email campaign. Now, that's not a surprise, but if you were aggregating the metric across all different groups, you would come up with a much lower number than if you were to just look at the platinum group alone. So it's helpful to understand who's responding to the campaign. But then when we take it another level and we look at who purchased, we can see that the platinum customers are actually 60 times more likely to purchase as well. So this is a very big number compared to the gold, iron, and lead. But notice that some lead customers do purchase. And so again, we shouldn't forget about them. But it also makes us wonder, could we have encouraged the iron and gold customers to purchase more as well by perhaps targeting them a little bit better or a little more succinctly? Still, through this segmentation example, we learned that through customer segmentation applied to a campaign, we can very quickly understand performance based on the quality of customer and which customers we might need to nurture and which customers we can expect performance from. So, what is customer lifetime value? Customer lifetime value is the present value of the future cash flows attributed to the customer during their entire relationship with the company. Let's break that down a little bit because there's always confusion between customer lifetime value and recency frequency modeling. Customer lifetime value uses recency frequency modeling to project forward. But I oftentimes think about this as driving while looking out the rearview mirror, which is recency frequency modeling, and that is chunky, somewhat directional, and tends to bucket inaccurately, versus looking out the front of the car and projecting forward with more fine-grained, specifically tighter fitting models that tend to bucket accurately. And that is essentially the difference between CLV and RFM. Now, if we look at the formula for CLV, there are a couple different components. The key concept here is there is no one right formula for CLV. It must be customized according to the kind of relationship that your customer has with your company. So let's look at the CLV formula. M stands for margin, which is a constant. Some companies subtract customer acquisition cost to get a true net. And if we want to use CLV to estimate something like the upper bounds of spending, then that definitely needs to be excluded. But generally, we treat M as a constant because margin multiple only changes when retention varies. R stands for retention over time. Most companies might have 60 to 90% retention. If it was 20% retention, you would lose 100% of the customers that you acquired at year 5 as your cohorts roll forward. That's not a constant, but many companies make this an average. If you do that, it underestimates the customer value and misclassifies customers. Average is bad. R to the T assumes that revenue is booked at the beginning of the period, so T equals 0. You can adjust that, of course, to whenever your revenue is booked. D stands for discount rate. This is the time value of money. It would not be accurate to project customer lifetime value without discounting for cash because dollars received today are worth more than those received tomorrow. It's a good idea to align with your CFO for the proper discount rate for your company. And finally, the capital T stands for time horizon. For most companies, at year 15, there's very little difference between that and infinity. So your maximum value to pull all of your customer lifetime value in might be 5 to 10 years, depending on the business, maximum of 15. It also depends on how you're using customer lifetime value. If you're using it for short-term decisions like marketing decisions, you may want to take a shorter view, a shorter sense of time, because not everyone will be spending immediately. If you are looking at it for valuation purposes, how much is my company worth, then you might take the maximum or longer perspective in order to rack up as much value from your customer base as possible. How do you do customer segmentation with CLV? Well, Once you've refined the formula, then you need to apply it into a system. And there are quite a few systems that can work. You can code it in Python. You can pick up the package from GitHub in R. And almost any system will work as long as it allows segments with the following criteria. One, I think you should have segments that are mutually exclusive, meaning that each customer has a crisp categorization at any given point in time. I think this makes a lot of sense. There are some arguments for making them non-mutually exclusive, where someone can be in multiple states at once. This is complicated for companies to understand and for internal adoption. So my recommendation is to always start with mutually exclusive. Two, you need to capture all the customers in the system. More is better. So if you have customers that are visible in one part of your company and not visible in another, your goal is to get that customer 360 and pull them all together as much as possible and deduplicate. Three, you'll need to set your segment split points, and that's how you classify them within the framework. What exactly makes the difference between a platinum and a gold, or a gold and an iron, or an iron and a lead? That's a little bit of an art and science, and there are no hard and fast rules of thumb here. So getting those segment split points right and finding that people have a pretty good agreement about what makes a good split point is also helpful for adoption. Four, allow yourself to define outliers and treat them accordingly. So for example, it could be that through your e-commerce system, wholesalers come through and buy a whole bunch of product at once. Maybe that needs a slightly different treatment or classification than a regular platinum customer. Maybe the dollars are the same, maybe they're not. All that discussion of who's a customer, how do we pick them up, are they an outlier, needs to happen as you do your segmentation. And finally, be sure to allow the removal of internal and test customer data to make your data nice and clean. And then you've got a good start with customer segmentation. So how do we do lifetime value customer segmentation with Rubino? Well, this is an example of the customer segmentation breakdown, very simple: high, medium, low, and new customers. Where do new customers enter? Which is oftentimes a question that companies who are definitely trying to acquire new customers want to know the answer to. And as you can see, the blue stands for the percentage of customers, and the green stands for the CLV. So 23% of the CLV comes from 4.2% of the customers in count, as opposed to the low value where 19% of the CLV, so the bottom percent of value, is coming from 45% of the customers. Again, very typical to what we normally see. Now, in this case, high would normally be platinum, medium stands for iron and gold, and low stands for lead. And then, of course, new is a different category. If we scroll down a little bit, we can see the performance by location. And one of the interesting stories here has to do with the average CLV versus the total CLV. Look how that story changes. It's just hugely different. And now, if we scroll down just a little bit further, we can get some more detail about the cadence of the customers, understanding what the average repurchase frequency is. In this case, for all customers, the average is 7.3 months. And we can further break that down by the different classes to determine whether someone is on cadence or off cadence. And we can also set some benchmarks here around the average order value, which in this case is $171.30, and the average number of transactions per customers in the database, which is 1.3. These top elements, although they are averages, they help us set appropriate baselines for when things are doing better than before or when we've overachieved. And that's why they're very helpful to look at and then filter down. So that gives you the first cut of how customers look when they're properly segmented inside the Rubino customer base.